Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and today I'd like to talk about my visit to Frontier Developments. Now, it may come as a bit of a surprise to you that I had a visit there, and it actually came as a surprise to me. Late last week, Frontier asked a small group of us to go and visit in order to record a few lines of dialogue that they can use in the game. Now, whilst we were there, we were fortunate enough to be given a tour of the offices as well as see some upcoming content. Now, I want to be clear right up front in the video here, I won't be talking about any of that content I actually saw because that is covered by NDA, so I can't talk about it. But what I do want to talk about are my impressions for where the game is heading, along with Frontier's approach to the game. And we also managed to get a bit of clarification on what's coming beyond 2.4. So then, on to the visit. The first thing that struck me when I arrived at Frontier is just how large the place is. There's been a lot of doubts as to how many people are working on Elite Dangerous, and I've got to admit, I've had those doubts myself. Yet, after having a tour of the offices there, those doubts are now completely blown away. There's well over 100 people actively working on Elite Dangerous, and there's no signs of that stopping anytime soon. As the tour continued, we were fortunate enough to get to see a whole bunch of content that's coming in 2.4, and some of this you're going to be able to see next week at E3. Now, ever since Frontier's announcement that 2.4 is going to be released piecemeal, that effectively it's coming in stages to suit the game's narrative, there's been a lot of concern, and I've had the same concerns myself, that the patch is going to be much smaller than all the previous patches. But that doesn't seem to be the case. There does seem to be a lot of content there indeed. So it was nice to see that 2.4 isn't about winding down the game. In fact, it could be argued that it's the precise opposite. But that's really the thing, isn't it? I've made no secret over the past few months that I've started having a few doubts as to the game's future, and I think a lot of people share those doubts. In fact, I expressed a lot of those concerns in the recent video called The Situation with Elite Dangerous. That said, since that video, we have received additional information from Frontier where they confirmed the nature of 2.4, as well as a little bit of information as to what's coming beyond 2.4. So we all know at this point that Frontier are planning on dropping the season model, which means at this point any future updates will not be covered by a season pass. However, Frontier have said that development is going to continue and that the focus is going to be on a return to core gameplay mechanics. The trouble is that that statement is not particularly clear, so it's led a lot of people to speculate as to what that means for the game, with many people suggesting that the game may be going into some type of maintenance mode, or that the game may not have much of a future as Frontier start focusing only on bug fixes. Now, after a discussion with Frontier, I can confirm that that is absolutely not the case. So what did Frontier mean when they said they want to focus on core gameplay updates? Well, what they meant is they want to return to each individual game mechanic and flesh it out in a way they were unable to on the first pass. Their aim is to get things much closer to the original concepts, and also perhaps to include other enhancements that they feel would improve the overall game. Now, another thing Frontier didn't talk about in their recent statement as to what's coming beyond 2.4 is new content, and this led many people to wonder whether or not there's actually going to be any new things at all. But that is a question I specifically asked, and the answer is that yes, there is going to be new content, there is going to be new headline features, but Frontier are not ready to talk about them yet. They would also unfortunately not be moved on revealing any further information as to the nature of the new sales model or whatever's coming in place of a season pass. That said, one thing that was eminently clear is that Frontier are heavily invested in the future of Elite Dangerous, and they have no plans whatsoever of abandoning the game. Personally though, I've got to admit that I feel Frontier could do a much better job of communicating that fact to everyone. But even still, it shouldn't be underestimated that the developers are very passionate about the game, and for many of them it's clearly a labour of love. But whatever block within Frontier prevents this type of information from getting out there, it seems clear to me that once E3 arrives, people are going to have a much better idea of where the game is heading. So ultimately then, whilst we weren't shown everything about the game's future, far from it in fact, one thing that did come across is that Frontier have a very clear picture of what they want the game to be, but how they get there though is still very much an open question. What happens with Elite in terms of gameplay is still very much an unknown to me. It's been said time and time again that Elite is very RNG focused and that it relies perhaps a little too heavily on repetitive gameplay. Yet it's clearly something that many players do very much enjoy about the game. So is it something that's going to change? Well, time will tell. This design philosophy is clearly central to how Frontier approach game design. However, it really does need to be stated and then underscored that Frontier are well aware of this, and there is a very strong desire within the company to add a lot more depth to Elite Dangerous. Although it was neither said nor implied, my impression was that it's been very, very difficult for Frontier to develop the game. It seemed to me that the game's been a bit of an uphill battle to get it to where it is right now, but also my own impression is that Frontier now feel the game is in a suitable position to return back to the foundations and get it to where they want it to be. So bottom line then is that I feel Elite Dangerous has a very good future, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.